Shalom and welcome to a new live stream from Israel for Fred. We are now reporting about the horrible attacks from Hamas against Israel this morning, and joining us live from Tel Aviv is Arsen Ostrovsky. Hello, Arsen.
Hi, Conrad. How are you, my friend?
How is the situation there now?
The situation here now is quite difficult, very jarring. We have had a very difficult morning, which is the full extent of which is really we're only beginning to see right now. There have been, I think, already over 5,000 rockets rained down on us by the Hamas terrorists in Gaza. Since this morning, we have seen mass infiltration by Hamas terrorists from the Gaza border into the southern towns in Israel. There have already been reports of over 20 Israelis being killed, really executed, murdered in cold blood. The images are just utterly horrific, and we're also hearing and seeing many reports of Israelis, both soldiers and civilians, including women and children, being taken hostage and captive by the Hamas terrorists into Gaza. There's a state of war that has been declared here now already in response to the mass and wanton act of terror by the Hamas terror group. And I think we are in for some quite difficult days ahead, unfortunately.
And there's Israeli media are reporting that around more than 20 people have been killed. But after seeing the photos and reading the reports, my take is that the numbers will be much higher.
I fear that you are correct in that estimate. I mean, I don't think we know the full. We don't know the official figures just yet, but there have already been reported over 20 that have been killed. It hurts me to say that I think there will be a number more that have been murdered and that have succumbed to their wounds, and we also have to, of course, think of those that have been taken captive and hostage by Hamas into Gaza, and in some absolutely sickening scenes that are being paraded and celebrated there. I mean, this is just vile, this is barbaric, and it is utterly inhumane and inexcusable, and ought to be condemned by every nation on earth that believes in peace, that condemns terror, and that stands for freedom. There is no excuse. There is no equivalence here.
Yeah. We are joined by viewers all over Scandinavia writing their messages of support for you guys in Israel. Also says the IDF must take decisive action, not just against the entire overseas leadership of Hamas and Islamic Jihad, but against the Iranian regime. How do you see Iran's role in this attack?
Look, we have to remember that, quite simply, Hamas is Iran. Hamas is Iran. The Hamas terror group is a proxy, is a puppet of the Islamic Republic of Iran. They are funded, they are armed, and directed by the Iranian leadership in Tehran. They don't do anything without their explicit orders. So, as far as I'm concerned, Hamas is acting at the behest of the Iranian regime, and that's something we need to bear in mind, certainly with respect to any kind of military response that Israel takes.
So when we see the images and reports this morning, many people in Norway and probably all over the world ask themselves, how is this possible? How can the IDF allow hundreds of Hamas terrorists to overrun the defense and get into communities along the border? I don't expect you to have the full answer. It will probably take many months and years to really figure it out. But is it the same shock in Israel?
Look, there's certainly a lot of questions that are being asked, and in due time will be asked and certainly answered accordingly. Look, Israel, we can only do so much to protect the country. Nothing is 100% foolproof, and we can and we do as much as possible to try and protect every single inch of the border. But I don't think it's physically possible to protect every last centimeter. Look, political recriminations will come in due course, and assessments of what happened, how it was permitted to happen, and what needs to happen in the future. So the appropriate lessons are learned. But I don't think that is the time for that right now. Right now, I think the time is to come together, not just people in Israel, which we're seeing, but also for our supporters outside of Israel, to show unity and solidarity with the state of Israel, with Israeli people, and to condemn unequivocally the attacks upon us, and also to reiterate that Israel, like Norway, like every other sovereign nation, has the full and inalienable right under international law to take whatever action necessary to defend our nation and our citizens, and that we shall do so accordingly.
Yeah. I have seen the Norwegian Minister of Foreign Affairs have condemned the attacks. Have you seen other international reactions so far?
Absolutely. Norway is one of many dozens of countries from across the world that have condemned, and really in quite unequivocal terms, the Hamas terror attacks on Israel today. Even the UN and the EU have condemned this also, which is no simple things in this political climate, which I think also goes to underscore the gravity of the situation and really the vile hideousness and barbarism of these Hamas attacks that we've seen. It's just, it's barbaric and inhumane, and really everyone that cares about peace, that cares about freedom, that condemns, really ought to condemn Hamas unequivocally and show their solidarity with Israel at this point in time.
Yeah. If you viewers have any comments or questions to Arsen Ostrovsky, please put them in the comments. Arsen is one of the most influential Twitter or X users in Israel, so please make sure that you follow his updates on X. And he is an international lawyer. And thanks a lot for joining us, Arsen. Last few weeks, the Israeli media has been full of positive reports about normalization with Saudi Arabia, positive and upbeat. And do you think that now the Hamas and Iran leadership starts this attack as a reaction and trying to stop that good development?
Look, that's possible. The Hamas terror group and their friends will try and spin this into many ways. But at the end of the day, this is quite simply an unprovoked and unprecedented and premeditated terror attack by the Hamas group. And I would say, with respect to the Saudi Arabia issue, that I think now would probably be the best time for them to make a move and make peace with Israel, because I think, if anything, what we've seen today will underscore two things. One, that Iran is a primary threat, not just to Israel and to the Saudis, but to the region as a whole, and that the Palestinians are also no partner for peace. So there's no reason for the Saudis to go out of their way to appease the Palestinians. We've seen only literally just before we went on air to speak on that, Mahmoud Abbas, the PA president, when asked to comment about the situation, instead of using the opportunity to condemn the Hamas terror wave, he used it to condemn Israel. I think he just underscored his utter irrelevance. And quite frankly, from our perspective, really there is no difference between Hamas and Mahmoud Abbas. Abbas is just someone who wears a suit. He could have shown to be a responsible leader, someone who cares about peace, but instead he chose to side with Hamas yet again.
Absolutely. Have you? What about the situation where you are? Have you had to go to the shelters during this morning, or?
I have. That is how I found out about what was happening. I was woken up at a very early hour this morning. Look, I have two small children as well. It is not a pleasant experience having to wake up your children. One of them is a baby. The other is not more than a few years older. To wake them up from their crib to run to shelter. It is a harrowing experience. Doesn't matter how many times you do it. We've had to do that multiple times already today. In fact, I'm speaking to you now from just outside our house. I can't afford to go very far in the event that there is another attack. So it's a very difficult situation. Our oldest daughter, who's 6.5, it's not her first time in a shelter, but she looked at me today and she asked, Abba, Daddy, why are they doing this? It's heartbreaking. No father, no parent should ever have to have this discussion. But here we are today.
Yeah. And I see now reports that all schools will be closed tomorrow. Is that all over the country or only in the south?
I'm not sure I can tell you. It's certainly in Tel Aviv as well. It's certainly in the south, without question. We're already hearing reports in Tel Aviv and the central Israel area as well. We have to remember also that the Hamas terrorists now also attacked Jerusalem as well. We hear a lot about how holy Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem is supposedly for them, but here they are indiscriminately firing rockets now also at Jerusalem. We've seen something like, over a third of the country here in Israel in the line of fire. I think we're just before we went on air, you mentioned, the population in Norway is about 5.5 million. So you're looking at roughly, imagine about almost 2 million now Norwegians in bomb shelter. That's just putting it in context for you.
Yeah, wow. What are the options for the Israeli government and the IDF now when they will react and defend themselves?
That's a good question. I mean, I think first and foremost, they are trying to secure the region in the south by the Gaza border, following the physical infiltration of Hamas terrorists. So I think that's first and foremost priority, to try and secure the communities there and to try and eliminate the terrorists who have infiltrated. The IDF was already fired upon a number of Hamas targets in the Gaza Strip, a number of military targets there. I expect that will continue. And of course, there also will need to be a massive operation to recover and bring back those Israelis that are being held captive and hostage in the Gaza Strip. So I think we're in for a number of very, very difficult and challenging days. This will not be over anytime soon, sadly.
Yeah. Arsen, I will let you go. Thanks a lot for your update, and keep safe, and all the best.
Conrad, thank you. And I would just add one more thing, that we appreciate the support of MIF so much, not only in the good times, of which I hope to see many, many more days, but especially now in these difficult and challenging times. We need all the support and all the good wishes and prayers from all our friends, and we certainly appreciate all of that coming from you and from your incredible network at MIF. So thank you so much for that as well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Vi håper du vil abonnere på Med Israel for fred på YouTube. Her finner du et stort antall foredrag av internasjonale eksperter, aktuelle direktesendinger og korte videoklipp. Husk å like, abonnere og motta varsler. MIFs YouTube-kanal vil gi deg noe alle trenger, mer forståelse for Israel. Husk å følge Med Israel for fred på Facebook. Når du liker, kommenterer og deler våre saker, vil israelernes argumenter bli mer synlige for familie og venner. Det jo akkurat dette du vil. Her et godt tips. Velg følgeinnstillinger. Du kan stille inn at saker fra MIF får høyere prioritet i nyhetsoppdateringen din. Og du kan skru på egne varsler om artikler, videoer og direktesendinger. Med Israel for freds Facebook-side gir deg noe alle trenger, mer forståelse for Israel.
Hamas, du har ansvaret. Ved å bygge en organisasjon innstilt på massedrap og rasisme. Vi må angripe hver eneste jøde på jorden. Vi må slakte dem og drepe dem med Allahs hjelp. Ved å avfyre over 20 000 raketter og granater mot israelske hjem og familier fra sivile palestinske områder, inkludert hundrevis som falt ned på Gazastripen. Ved å grave et massivt nettverk av militære tunneler under halvdelen av Gazas urbane områder, hvor du skjuler dine terrorister og våpen. Du gjør palestinske nabolag til avfyringsramper og krigssoner. Hamas, du har ansvaret ved å stanse livreddende hjelp inn til din egen befolkning. Ved å stjele penger og nødhjelp som skulle til sivile palestinere, og bruke det til å drive en endeløs krig mot Israel. Ved å styre Gaza med jernhånd. Brutalt bryte palestinernes menneskerettigheter og nådeløst slå ned på enhver opposisjon. Ved å holde 3 mentalt syke israelere som gisler i årevis, uten noe Røde Korsbesøk eller livstegn. Ved å brenne 10-talls kvadratkilometer av det som du visst nok elsker. Hamas, du har ansvaret. Du misbruker palestinske barn og trener dem til å hate og drepe, i stedet for å bygge et bedre liv, med å drepe hundrevis av israelere i selvmordsterrorangrep. Hamas har ansvaret ved å holde 2 millioner palestinere som gissel til din rasistiske fantasi om å ødelegge Israel. Mens du skjuler deg i bunkersen, eller lever i luksus i utlandet. Hamas, du har ansvaret ved å hevde at du vant Gaza-krigene, når det på bakken er en katastrofe. I dag, 14. oktober, har Aftenposten gitt Palestina-komiteen og en rekke andre organisasjoner en hel side til å liste opp tiltak for å bidra til en såkalt rettferdig fred i Palestina og Israel. Utenriksminister Anniken Huitfeldt bør merke seg at forslagene er mer av det gamle som har vist seg ikke bedre. For araberne i området innledet boikott av jøder som de mente bodde på feil sted allerede på 1920-tallet. Diskriminerende merking har vært en del av jødisk historie i Europa og den islamske verden gjennom århundrer. Et stort antall land har anerkjent Palestina som stat, uten at det har ført til fred, snarere tvert imot. En norsk anerkjennelse før en fremforhandlet løsning vil undergrave Oslo-avtalen og folkeretten, og Norge vil være ferdig som leder av giverlandsgruppen. Det vil heller ikke gi fred å stanse kontrollen av varer som skal inn til det islamistiske regimet på Gazastripen. Det er tvert imot oppskrift på nye runder med krig. For å gi konstruktive bidrag til fred, så bør Huitfeldt og regjeringen i stedet satse på nye signaler. For det første, så må de fortelle palestinerne at de ikke kan kreve å flytte over 7 millioner palestinere inn i Israel, men at palestinerne må tilpasse seg en fremtid som nabo av en jødisk stat. Hvis ikke dette blir kommunisert klart fra norsk side, så er alt festprat om en tostatsløsning meningsløs, og alle investeringer i et slikt mål blir bortkastet penger. For det andre så må Norge legge økonomisk press på palestinske myndigheter for å avvikle deres skalerte belønningssystem for dømte terrorister. Det kan ikke være slik at stolte drapsmenn av jødiske kvinner og barn får 5 ganger høyere lønn av palestinske myndigheter enn palestinske lærere og politimenn. Norge må stanse vår generelle budsjettstøtte til palestinerne så lenge disse ordningene videreføres. For det tredje, så må Norge presse palestinske myndigheter til å stanse indoktrinering til hat og hyllest av drap på sivile i skole og medier. Skal det bli en ekte fred, så må palestinsk undervisning og kommunikasjon i offisielle medier bli radikalt annerledes. Som leder av utenrikskomiteen på Stortinget viste Huitfeldt engasjement for at palestinsk skolepensum skal ha en fredsbyggende effekt. Men så sent som i juni i år bekreftet en EU-rapport at palestinske skolebøker inneholder jødehat og oppfordrer til vold. For det fjerde så må Norge kreve at palestinske myndigheter kommer til forhandlinger. Også her har Norge en effektiv mulighet til å sette makt bak kravet. Norge gir nemlig flere millioner kroner årlig til PLOs såkalte forhandlingsdepartement. Men samtidig så nekter palestinsk side direkte forhandlinger med Israel, og det har de gjort siden 2014. Galskap er å gjøre det samme om og om igjen, men likevel forvente et annet resultat, sa Albert Einstein. Huitfeldt har mulighet til å ta nye grep som kan gi konstruktive bidrag til en ekte fred.
Vi håper du vil abonnere på